Hi and welcome to Lois and Morgana Davidson Art. It's Lois here, and today I'm experimenting again, trying to create lots of movement in this huge wave crashing over the harbour wall on a stormy day. This is a photograph from Pixabay that I've used as inspiration. And what I'm aiming to try and do is capture the movement and the life of this image in my painting. I'm not trying to copy it exactly, but just trying to get the general impression. And here I shall show you just the basics of what I go through in order to create this painting. The full real-time demo will be over on Patreon, and it's a 3-part weekend workshop with lots more information. So if you're interested in that, seeing the full process for this painting unfold, then please follow the link below. And if you can hear a rumbling noise in the background, that's my coffee on the stove top telling me that it's just about ready. So I'm just going to pop off and get my coffee, and I'll be back in a mo. Today I'm using Millford cold press watercolour paper. It's 11 inches by 15 inches or 28 centimetres by 38 centimetres. It's taped to my board with ordinary decorator's masking tape, and my board's at an angle of 45 degrees, so gravity will help me paint. I'm using my Princeton Aqua Elite modeler brush to wet the sky. I've already been painting this morning, so my paint water's got a little bit of paint in it, so you can see it more clearly there. And I'm painting around the shape of my big crashing wave, roughly. I'm going to be looking for some lost and found edges, or soft and hard edges, to give me that dynamic sense of movement of the wave breaking over the harbour wall. Now I've moved on to a size, I think it's a size 18 Escoda Ultimo synthetic mop brush, and this is a mixture of indigo, Payne's grey, and I think there's some sepia in it, but this is mostly indigo and Payne's grey. And again, working around the dry area that I left for the breaking wave, but bringing that colour sort of in, trying to keep the colour a little bit stronger on the left, a little bit darker, and then sweeping that colour across the foreground for the sea in front of the wall. So I want to soften some of these edges and lift out a bit of paint. So rather than using the brush, which I tried to do, I'm now using a piece of paper tissue or paper towel and just gently dabbing at that edge so that I lose a few of the edges and soften back. That's also giving me slightly different shades for the white of my wave, and that's starting off some shadow and form within that crashing wave. This is sepia, and back to the large flat brush or modeler to just put in a bit of the seawall on either side. I'm just roughing in the position of it. I can pick out the detail and the tones later. Now with a small squirrel mop, which is clean and damp, I'm softening back even more just to really give me that lovely look of movement and life as the wave bursts over that wall and releases a lot of sort of spray into the atmosphere. And here it is, nice and dry. I can go in now and continue to work on the painting. Now that I've got my beautiful sort of lost and found and soft blurry edges to my wave, I need to get in some firmer marks to define the seawall, but try and lose the marks again and soften them where they go behind the breaking wave. So I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush here, and I've dipped into a mixture of sepia mixed with indigo and a bit of Payne's grey. Now these are the only colours that I'm using, apart from a little bit of vermilion at the end and some white gouache just to add a bit more life to the waves. So it's a limited palette painting, and at the moment I'm using the flat brush just to try and get in various different sort of layers of this harbour wall. It's all going to look a little bit sort of muddled until I get to the end and put in some railings and sort of mooring bollards, or whatever they're called, mooring posts with the orange. At the moment, I'm just working on trying to get my darks, working them in and around the wave, but trying to keep the geometric shape of the harbour wall going, as I say, going behind the wave. So I'm trying to keep sort of the shading roughly in the right place where I can see the darks in the photograph. I'm using that as a guide. And of course, the darker I get my sea wall, the more it'll make the wave and the foam and the white crests of the wave sort of pop and move. I'm looking for that energy. That's what I'm looking for mostly. I'm not looking for a perfect painting. I'm just sort of seeing if I can manage to capture movement and that moment as the wave breaks out and bursts over the top of the wall. So mostly what I'm doing now is working between softening back edges and putting in dark areas. And that's going to be the trick to this painting, or this style of painting, is to make that white really stand out. You have to get very, very, very dark. Now, watercolour lightens back quite a lot when it dries, so I may have to sort of go in a couple of times until I get the depth of dark that I'm looking for. And now I'm using my flat brush and I'm sweeping it across the sea inside the harbour. I want to keep it fairly flat here, but I do want to show a little bit of chop, because of course the harbour is what protects the water inside the harbour and the boats from the full might of a stormy sea. But I want to have a little bit of chop to show that it is a really rough and stormy day. Now this is a bit of Payne's Grey and Indigo, and I'm putting that inside the cloud. It's almost like a cloud, to be honest. I'm sort of hoping that the lost and found edges of the wave will kind of blend in with the look of the sky as well. So with this wave here, putting in that shading, blending it in, then dabbing it out a bit with a tissue, and then going in with a stippling brush and some white gouache, and I'm going to work around the wave with the white gouache just to really bring out a little bit more of that life and energy. And so working with the gouache and a little bit of my sort of darker shadow colour, building up some shape, form and depth in the wave. Then going to my Escoda size 16 round brush. It's a synthetic brush with a wonderful point, putting in some white gouache across the choppy water inside the harbour, just to show again that life and movement in the water. I've now added some Payne's Grey to my Indigo and my Burnt Umber to really get some nice darks in. And I'm working around to make sure that the edges have just got just enough softness at that point there, but I still want that to be the main focus of the crashing wave. And then just to strengthen up the geometric shape, the blocky shape of the seawall. Because I think the sort of blocky geometric shape of the harbour wall really does offset the organic and lively shape of that huge wave. And of course, sort of playing second fiddle to the wave is that sort of stormy sky in the background. And then continuing to use that dark colour and working, negatively painting around the shapes that are already there in the sea, in this side of the harbour wall, just getting those darks in. Smudging with my finger if I need to, just to soften and blend. Now with a small flat brush, I'm going to hopefully just bring the painting together by putting in these sort of railings or sort of bollards, just along so that I can have some hidden by that huge wave. And it also sort of delineates the man-made structure a little more. I'm just using my dark colour again and the tips of the flat brush just to create these very simple marks to just suggest those railings. And then just a final pop of colour with a little bit of vermilion, just to make these sort of mooring posts. So we're just going to put 3 along the harbour wall. Those small pops of colour work really well with all the greys and the blues and the browns. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I've achieved what I wanted to, which was to create this really loose and expressive sense of movement and life in this wave crashing over the harbour wall, and the shadows around it on the wall really help to give you the scale, as do those little bollards that I've put in at the end and the little orange mooring posts. Just bring the painting together. So I'm just going to slightly adjust the harbour wall on that side, just flatten things out a little bit. And maybe just darken it up a bit more on this side. When we've removed the tape and it's got a clean white border, we get to see it with fresh eyes and see if there's any adjustments. And I'm going to use my white Jelly Roll gel pen, and I'm going to pick out a few of these railings in white, where the railings are in front of the darker part of the sea wall. And I just think that little finishing touch works really nicely here. And then just pick out a few over on this side as well with the gel pen. You could use white gouache. I just think it stands out really nicely. So that's pretty much the finished painting. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to see a real-time full 3-part workshop on this, then please follow the link and go and take a look at my Patreon page. But thank you so much for watching. Please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much to everyone that supports us on Patreon. So I'll see you again soon. Take care, have a wonderful weekend, and happy painting. Bye.